chapter 5, section 4, part 2. We ended part 1 talking about the persecution of the Christians by the Romans, and persecution means harassing to cause suffering. Some examples of persecution, besides the typical cruel deaths and punishments, like being forced to become gladiators, Nero also blamed the Christians for the fire in Rome in 64 AD. Most of this persecution ended by the 2nd century, but most Christians were still in the minority. A good example of persecution is the example of Perpetua, who was a Christian martyr that died on March 7th, 203 AD. And on 172, it gives a good example, and it says, "Many women found that Christianity offered them many new roles. Many also died for their faith. Perpetua was an aristocratic woman who converted to Christianity. Her pagan family begged her to renounce her new faith, but she refused. Arrested by the Roman authorities, she chose instead to die for her faith. She was one of a group of Christians who were slaughtered by wild beasts in the arena at Carthage on March 7th, 203. She wrote a diary while she was in prison, and her final entry read, 'Thus far I have written this, till the day before the games, but the deed of the games themselves, let him write who will.'" And so it's just a perfect example of martyrs that were going to stand up for this new faith and weren't going to be bullied, so to speak, by the Romans. So it was things like this persecution and this martyrism that continued to flourish Christianity and continued to push it into the religion that it is today. Because this persecutions didn't do anything to eliminate Christianity or slow the growth of it, it really only forced Christianity to become more organized because they knew that these sorts of things would happen. And so there became new roles in the Christian faith, and some of that was over the church community itself. The clergy are the leaders of churches, and the laity are the regular church members themselves. So why did Christianity gain so many followers by the 3rd century AD? First and foremost, it offered a personal relationship with God that Roman religion didn't have before. It also offered salvation and an eternal life that the other Roman religion did not offer. Another good reason is that Christianity seemed very familiar, and most of that was because of the Jews that were converting to this new religion. They didn't feel like it was a completely different religion. Another thing is that Christianity fulfilled this need to belong. Being part of the laity or the church community really is something that human beings need to be part of groups, and so that fulfilled that idea for human beings. And another good thing is that it was attractive to all classes: poor, wealthy, powerless, men, women. It didn't matter. Everybody had spiritual equality, and as the example of Perpetua, a good example of a woman that felt empowered by this new religion. Now, to lighten up the whole idea of Christianity and persecution, I have a Far Side cartoon here that on one side, the Christians versus Lions sign-up sheet, and it's the Lions signing up. The other side, of course, were Christians being held captive, and they were signing up for it as well. Now, all kidding aside, obviously, Christians were used regularly to entertain the Romans in gladiatorial fights. The last 3 things that we need to talk about are 3 significant people that influenced the flow and the triumph of Christianity. The first one was Diocletian, and he was the last emperor to persecute any Christians, and so since he decided that he was going to be, this last one, that of course allowed people to practice Christianity freely. Constantine was another emperor, and he was the first one to actually convert to Christianity, and when your leader does something, obviously more people follow. He also issued the Edict of Milan, and this proclaimed tolerance of Christianity. So no more persecution, and now you're going to tolerate this new religion instead of looking at it as something negative. And the last one was Theodosius the Great. He was the emperor that adopted Christianity as the official religion of the empire. So these three people were significant in the growth of this new religion. All right, so let's review. Head Roman official or of a province would be C, procurator or governor. Founder of Christian communities in Asia Minor was A, Paul. Christian church leaders is E, clergy. Christian church members is B, laity. And the second part of the Christian Bible is D, New Testament. Romans were tolerant of other people's religions unless those religions did what? C, threatened public order and morals. 7, Roman persecutions made Christianity all of the following except B, weaker. It definitely made it stronger and more organized. Christianity grew for all of the reasons except D, it included the old Roman gods because, of course, it was a monotheistic religion and it did not. Christianity was especially attractive to A, the poor, because there was that spiritual equality, and the Jewish Essenes group. C, awaited a Messiah to save Israel. All right, so these are the people that you need to know: Cicero, Jesus, Pontius Pilate, Simon Peter, Paul, Perpetua, Diocletian, Constantine, and Theodosius. Vocabulary are procurator, Christos, Gentiles, Messiah, apostles, epistles, disciples, Gospels, New Testament, persecution, clergy, and laity. And the contributions you need to explain: planet names, June, March, the word volcano, Christianity, and New Testament.